Wait, don't scroll past. What if I told you there was a show about a robot girl who fooled an entire town while wearing the same dress for 4 years, or about a teenager who could freeze time just by touching her fingers together? And yes, there was even a show where kids ran their own nightclub. The 80s weren't just about the A-Team and Knight Rider, folks. There was a whole secret universe of shows that were so specifically Gen X that mentioning them to anyone else gets you nothing but blank stares. Now, these aren't just forgotten shows. These are the ones that make you question whether they actually existed or were just some fever dream from too many pop rocks and new Coke. Welcome to the twilight zone of 80s television, where network executives apparently said yes to everything. So if you spent your afternoons glued to the TV, probably sitting way too close with a bowl of Cookie Crisp in your hand, and mom yelling you'll ruin your eyes, you're about to have some core memories unlocked. But before we dive into these absolutely wild TV experiments, hit that subscribe button, because once we show you our number one pick involving a robot with an access panel in her back who somehow fooled an entire school, you'll want to stick around for more retro TV madness, because trust me, these shows explain so much about why Gen X turned out the way that we did. Now, let's kick things off with the show that perfectly captures peak 80s weirdness. Small Wonder. Imagine this pitch meeting. Okay, so there's this engineer, right, who builds a robot daughter in his basement. Now stick with me. He's going to dress her in the same red and white pinafore dress every day, and wait for it, sends her to public school. Oh, and she has superhuman strength, but can't understand basic emotions. Cool? Cool. Meet Vicky, the robot girl who lived with the Lawson family and somehow managed to fool everyone, despite walking like C-3PO's awkward cousin and speaking in a monotone that would make Siri sound emotional. She had an access panel in her back, people. How did she ever change for gym class? Let me walk you through a typical episode. Vicky would take everything literally, and I mean everything. Someone tells her to keep an eye on something, she'd remove her robotic eye and place it on whatever she was supposed to watch. Tell her to break a leg before a school play? Well, you can imagine how that went. But here's where it gets weird. As the show went on and actress Tiffany Brissett started growing up, the writers had some splaining to do, like Lucy. Their solution was to give her the ability to eat and drink, explaining that the food passed through her naturally. They dedicated an entire episode to teaching a robot about digestion. The show even had a running subplot about the nosy neighbors constantly trying to prove Vicky was a robot. I mean, these people watched her bend steel bars, lift furniture with one hand, and compute complex mathematics instantly, yet somehow never gathered enough evidence. It's like they were running the world's least effective investigation. Small Wonder, by the way, ran for 4 seasons, and each one got progressively weirder. By the end, they had episodes about Vicky developing ESP, learning to dream, and even meeting another robot kid, because apparently one robot child passing as human wasn't complicated enough. Now, if you thought a robot girl was wild, buckle up for Out of This World. This show asked the question, what if we gave a teenager the power to freeze time and made Burt Reynolds her alien dad? Because apparently that's just what you did in the 80s. Meet Evie Garland, your typical teenager, except for the whole half alien with the power to freeze time thing. On her 13th birthday, she discovers she can stop time by touching her fingers together, and who explains this to her? Her dad, who lives in a glowing cube and sounds suspiciously like the guy from Smokey and the Bandit. Every episode was basically a masterclass in how not to use time-stopping powers responsibly. Bad hair day? Well, freeze time and fix it. Awkward kiss coming up? Freeze time to practice. Test you forgot to study? You guessed it. Freeze time and peek at everyone else's answers. The real kicker, though, was the show ended on a massive cliffhanger where Evie's mom accidentally got transported to her dad's alien planet. Yeah, that's right, they left us hanging. And let's not even get started on the episode where Evie tried to freeze time during a school dance and had to unfreeze everyone one by one. Talk about a party foul. Now let's talk about the show that made puppet aliens cool way before Baby Yoda, Alf. Now this wasn't just any alien show. This was a sitcom about a furry alien from planet Melmac, who crash landed into suburban America and developed an obsession with cats as food. Alf, or Gordon Shumway if you're fancy about it, was basically what would happen if you combined a Muppet with a New York taxi driver and gave him an appetite for cats. The show followed his life with the Tanner family, who somehow managed to hide a 3-foot-tall talking alien in their house for 4 years without anyone noticing, but I digress. Every episode was a masterclass in controlled chaos. Alf would try to order pizza under fake names like Rocky Balboa, attempt to contact other aliens using household appliances, or nearly expose himself to the neighbors in increasingly ridiculous ways. Oh, and let's not forget his failed attempts to eat Lucky, the family cat. The show even spawned an animated series explaining Alf's life on Melmac before it exploded. Yeah, his entire planet exploded because everyone plugged in their hair dryers at the same time, and that's what I would call a very bad hair day. But here's where it gets really interesting. Alf became such a cultural phenomenon that he had his own talk show, cartoon series, comic books, and even a 900 number where you could call and talk to Alf. He was basically the Baby Yoda of the 80s, just with more cat-eating jokes and less force powers. And yes, we do know his name is Grogu, just run with it, okay? Now let's talk about the show that was basically Fame meets Saved by the Bell meets a fever dream. Kids Incorporated. Imagine a world where kids not only ran their own nightclub, but also broke into perfect choreographed musical numbers to solve all their problems. It's High School Musical, guys. It's High School Musical. This wasn't just any kid show. This was a full-blown production factory that gave us Fergie, Jennifer Love Hewitt, and Mario Lopez. That's right, before Black Eyed Peas, before Party of Five, and before Saved by the Bell, these future stars were belting out covers in a nightclub run by children. The club was called The Place, not because they were trying to be cool, but because the A burned out in Palace. And somehow nobody ever questioned why a bunch of kids were running a professional music venue. The show treated this like it was completely normal. Like, oh yeah, of course those 12-year-olds have their own nightclub, doesn't everybody? Every episode followed the same magical formula. Kid has problem, kid sings about problem, problem magically resolves itself, everyone celebrates with another song. Bad grade, time for a power ballad. Fight with your friend, cue the rock anthem. Lost your homework, better believe that calls for a musical number with backup dancers. And finally, let's talk about Perfect Strangers. The show that not only gave us the iconic Dance of Joy, but also spawned one of the most successful spin-offs in TV history. This was the story of Larry Appleton and his distant cousin, Balki Bartokomous, from the fictional Mediterranean island of Mypos. Balki arrived in Chicago with nothing but a sheep wool vest and endless optimism, leading to some of the most quotable moments in 80s TV. But here's the real kicker. This show gave us Family Matters. Yeah, Perfect Strangers elevator operator Harriet Winslow was so popular that she got her own show. And that show introduced us to Steve Urkel, arguably the biggest nerd icon of the 90s. And there you have it. 5 shows that proved the 80s were absolutely fearless when it came to television. From robot daughters to time-freezing teens, from alien puppets to kid nightclub owners, these shows weren't just weird. They were wonderfully, gloriously even, insane. These weren't just TV shows. They were fever dreams that somehow made it past network executives. And you know what? Television was better for it. These shows dared to be different in ways that modern TV wouldn't even attempt. If you remember any of these shows, congratulations, you're officially part of the secret club of 80s TV survivors. Drop a TV emoji in the comments if you ever tried to freeze time like Eevee, checked your friends for access panels after watching Small Wonder, or performed the Dance of Joy in public. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button because trust me, we've got more wild TV history to uncover. Next week, we're diving into Saturday morning cartoons so bizarre, they'll make these shows look normal. Until then, stay weird, stay wonderful, and remember, sometimes the strangest shows make the best memories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.